Hey, how's it going everyone? Raj here. I hope you all are doing well. A long time no see. I haven't done a video in a really long time. Just didn't really feel like doing one. Been focusing on other things. But today, Easter weekend, I hope you're enjoying your Easter break, by the way. The sun's out, really good weather here in the UK. Maybe that sort of inspired me to do a video. The fragrances I've been wearing recently have kind of switched up a little bit. And I wanted to share with you the fragrances that I've been wearing over the last few weeks or so and really enjoying. If you want to share like what fragrances you have been also wearing, I'd love to hear from you guys. Maybe reconnect with a few of you subscribers in the comment section who I haven't sort of had exchanges with in a while. So that will be great. All of the fragrances are in the description below. This video will be part of a playlist where I go into seasonal lists and top 10, top 5 kind of videos. I don't do loads of list videos, but there are a few there for you to check out and a few other playlists for you to check out. So let's get into the first one. This is actually my scent of the day. This is a real classic from the house of Caron, and this one is Le Troisième Homme, or the Third Man. And yeah, I've been really enjoying Caron fragrances recently. I only have 2, this one and Boucheron, but this one just suits this warmth we have now in the environment. You know, the sun's out, the grasses are greener, the trees are greener, and this is a very sort of lively, uplifting, kind of citrus-based, floral, green, grassy. I also get a kind of like a sweetness in there, a sweet floral aspect, a kind of lemon sherbety kind of feel. It has a kind of fizziness, which I quite like. I don't know why, but recently I got the feeling of sort of passion fruit, you know, that kind of, sort of bitterness, I guess you would get, or sourness actually, that you would get from a passion fruit, you know, but with the kind of juicy, sweeter elements as well. It's just a really fantastic fragrance, really classy scent. It kind of wears kind of light on the skin, so I like to go heavy on the sprayer with this one. You know, spray up the clothes and it works really, really well. Caron, Third Man, if you have this fragrance, if you tried it, let me know your thoughts. Okay, so going on to the second fragrance, and I've been wearing this fragrance a lot actually. Ever since I've got it, I've put quite a big dent into this one. This is from Boucheron. This one is just simply called Homme. This is the EDT version. This is kind of like a vintage bottle. It was a bit difficult to try and date this one exactly, but what I can say is that the scent of this is actually, it's kind of like almost basic in some ways. It just does, it does something really well and very simple. In the same way maybe that Acqua di Parma's Colonia, in that style. Also, a fragrance that came to mind recently was Parfums Roma's the lemon-based one, a completely Aqua Viva, I think is the name. And I like how this kind of combines like this lemony citrus, quite simple as I said, with a muskiness as well in there too. It has this kind of like woody, powdery element as well, which I really enjoy. Again, I like to apply this one quite liberally. I've worn a lot, as you can tell, and I quite like wearing this one going into the office. You know, going into the office only a couple of times a week now, and this has that kind of professional feel. It smells has a smart feel to it. It has quite an elegant feel to it. It's not particularly like refined and super elegant as you might find actually in Acqua di Parma's. I mentioned Colonia. You could throw in Colonia Essenza, Colonia Intensa. I think those are actually better fragrances, but this could be had like the modern version for a really, really good price. And I do actually have a decant of the new version, or the most recent sort of formula, and it smells really fantastic. Like there's no doubt about that. Really like the bottle design here. Boucheron being a jewelry house, a lot of their bottles are inspired by all the jewelry that they have produced over the years, so really nice. The cap is it is quite plasticky. It's a bit of a cheap presentation, but scent is pretty good, and I think you get really good value for money. Boucheron Homme, the EDT, really good. I quite like Jaipur Homme as well. Definitely maybe going into the colder seasons I want to get my hands on that one. I haven't actually bought any fragrances in a really long time. Probably maybe since my last video actually, so towards the latter part of last year, I'm just not interested. I'm really just enjoying my bottles that I have, and not really wearing too much in the way of samples. I've got a lot of samples that have been built up. Some of them have been sent to me, so I want to kind of get through those. But yeah, full bottles, just enjoy what you own, right? Next one from the house of Roja Parfums. This one is Scandal Pour Homme. This is part of the Parfum Cologne version. Not sure if you can see if I've worn, how much I've worn, but I'm probably about 40, over halfway through. Another fragrance that I love wearing into the office. It has that very smart, sort of, what's the word, slightly refined, upper level, upper scale kind of feel to it, but wear your fragrances wherever you want to be honest. Like, don't feel like you have to restrict yourself to certain seasons and occasions and whatnot, but springtime for me, this fragrance works really, really well. It has that wonderful citrus aromatic feel to it, done really nicely, some nice green, very green side to this fragrance, very herbal, you know, rosemary, think of like rosemary and those types of eucalyptus kind of notes that are very uplifting and cooling on the nose. But then you do also have a really smooth, dry down, a lavender feel to this, very woody base, and it kind of is like, for me, a fragrance in the vein of like a Chanel Pour Monsieur. Can't remember which version now, which this reminds me of, the EDT or the EDP. I think it might be the EDP actually, which this one reminds me of, and that's a fragrance that I definitely would like to get. Yeah, really fantastic fragrance. I actually used to own this when it used to be in the old style packaging, the Eau de Parfum it was simply called. There is also a higher strength to this version which costs a lot more. So yeah, a really great fragrance. Have you tried this one? I like the bottle design, if that's anything. Yeah, good stuff. Scandal. Don't like the name, don't really like these kinds of names. Danger, Scandal, they don't really mean anything to me, but a good scent, that's for sure. Okay, a bottle design that is quite unique, I think it's fair to say. This one is from Bijan. This one is Bijan Men. Yeah, I don't know, like a golf ball sitting on top of a donut. It's how I would describe this. This is a fantastic fragrance. I really, really love this. It has an old school feel to it. Like, it feels like this type of scent isn't really created in modern perfumery. I don't get that feeling with this one. It might to some people smell a little bit, I don't know, dated or old-fashioned, but I think if it smells good, it smells good. Like, when it comes, what era it reminds you of, I'm not really too concerned with that. This one has that wonderful spicy richness, that very sort of mixture between spices and patchouli, but it's not a heavy fragrance. It's actually kind of like a aromatic, spicy kind of fragrance, which I really enjoy. Hard to pinpoint actually some of the notes in this one, to be honest. I get a woodiness, like a kind of a sandalwood feel. There's an element of sweetness in here. It's quite rich. It's actually quite a sort of luxurious smell, I find, for the price. This can be had for not a lot of money. I've seen like vintage versions online. I'm pretty sure vintage versions of these where the juice is a lot darker. This is obviously a modern formulation and it's cool. I don't really know too much about Bijan fragrances. I know it was a brand back in the day, back in maybe the 80s or even before that, probably before that. Quite a well-known sort of house, quite an established house. I don't know what's going on with them at the moment, fashion-wise, fragrance-wise, but this one is really classy. Really, really classy fragrance is definitely how, maybe the best way I would describe this one. Okay, going on to a couple of fragrances a little bit different, you know, a little bit more, shall we say, adventurous when it comes to modern designer fragrances. And when I say modern, this isn't a modern release, it's just, you know, comparable to modern releases from Chanel, from other houses. This does smell very different. This one is Egoiste. And wow, this is actually really powerful juice. Like, I've known that always since I've owned this bottle, but wearing it recently, I don't know if it's like aged in the bottle or air has got into it, but I feel like it's got stronger. It's got that wonderful sweetness, that rosewood feel, which has a kind of polish. It has a kind of like a wood polish feel to it, like a freshly polished piece of wood, but with some steeped in some very thick vanilla, but it doesn't come across as overly sweet actually. It is grounded in kind of a sweet woodiness, I would say. It goes more in that direction rather than overly vanillic, like what you might find in maybe something like Le Male actually, which has that kind of woody vanilla lavender kind of side to it. This is more on the floral woods, sweet woods kind of side, with that vanilla note in there, which I get a hint of that really. Yeah, it's really, really nice. This works actually great in humid weather, I find. Just a couple of sprays. I don't think you need to go over the top with Egoiste. It can be a fragrance that will potentially be overpowering. In my experience, maybe to you guys, it's kind of like normal, kind of tame. But I feel like a couple of sprays, just like on the chest especially, or like a couple of sprays. If you're like going into the evening and you're wearing like a light jumper, do a couple of sprays on there. It will really help with the projection. It'll help with the longevity as well. Not that it needs any helping, because it's definitely a potent fragrance. And I like this. I like this. Really worth owning, I'd say. Definitely worth checking out from Chanel. Chanel is actually a brand I'd like to get into a little bit more. And not just their sort of this exclusive line, but also just their normal regular range. I mentioned Pour Monsieur, and Teo said maybe I'd like to get a bottle off for the first time. A fragrance that I got probably around this time, in fact pretty much exactly this time last year, and I had never owned Fahrenheit in the original version. I had owned multiple like flankers like Absolute and the Parfums version. I think those are the only two. Did I have Fahrenheit 32? I might have had that one. Yeah, I don't know, but like this original version, I've actually really grown to appreciate this one a lot more than when I first tested this one out, which would have been several years ago. It has a unmistakable quality to this. It's so easy to pick up on. If somebody wears Fahrenheit, you will absolutely know that they're wearing Fahrenheit. But I like the kind of, there's a fresh side to this, kind of lingering there beneath all of this smokiness, this petroleum feel, the wonderful feel you get from the violet. There's a fresh, almost minty quality to this, which I find sometimes difficult to place exactly where, you know, like specifically like what note that is. There are like obviously that you can just read the note breakdown, but I've got to say, this is real classic, a real classic. It does require somebody who wants to stand out, I would say, and is not afraid to take some slightly more bolder choices with their fragrances. But yeah, Fahrenheit is a beauty, a real beauty. Great fragrance. And moving on to the final one in this list, now that we're into spring, very much into spring, the weather's getting better. I think this is just the perfect fragrance. From Guerlain, this is Vetiver. I've put a decent dent into this one. Probably will be looking to wear this one a lot more over the next few weeks, that's for sure. Vetiver is a real classic. It really, really is. It takes you on a real journey. It takes you into a journey into a forest, into also like wetlands, like grassland where vetiver is growing. You know, it takes you into a humid country, you know, which is actually, I've taken this with me on like travels into like more tropical countries, and this works really, really well. And it has that kind of smoky, that oiliness that I would describe in the opening, and it has that kind of smoked tobacco feel to it, but it then does turn into a very nice, like easy to love, grassy feel. It has a little bit of spice to it. And so it starts off like quite sort of bold and actually turns into something very, very nice and aromatic on the skin. It's really perfect actually. I can see why this is commonly commonly referenced as like the sort of one of the best Vetivers in the game. This version is really fantastic. I have actually tried vintage versions, and I have a miniature, which is a lot more potent. It's quite different actually to this, I find anyway. But yeah, lovely. I think Guerlain have changed all their bottle designs, so they are in this version, or they're in the they're in the square version. I think I haven't tried that most recent release, but Guerlain are always switching things up. Yeah, a real classic, one that's I would love to get maybe in a bigger size. I think these do come in a 200 ml, but I haven't seen them on, I might have seen it online somewhere. But yeah, great scent. Have you worn this fragrance? Do you own this? Do you own any of these other fragrances that I've mentioned? What do you think about them? And as I said, what have you been wearing recently? It would be great to hear from you guys. Thank you to anyone who is a new subscriber since I've been away. There is a whole bunch of content that I have released over the years. So even if I'm not producing many videos, there's so many playlists you can go through and years worth of content to hopefully help you guys make some decisions about fragrances and maybe get some inspiration. Anyway, thanks so much for watching. I'll see you on the next one. I don't know when it will be, but take care everyone. Thanks. See you soon. Bye.